Okay, welcome everyone. My name is Scott Bula. I'm a senior support technician here at the city, and today we're going to be talking to you about security awareness. I've titled this talk, "Has Your Data Gone Phishing?" Because as I'm sure, or at least I hope a lot of you know, we run phishing tests against our staff members here, and we're going to talk about a bit about that and a lot of other things today, and kind of clear up what security is, what it means to us here and at home. So first question I often get, what's our actual goal in terms of security? What's the goal of security? And to me, it breaks down into four things: confidentiality, integrity, availability, and privacy. So confidentiality, what that is it means the data is not being seen by people it shouldn't be seen by. This is, for example, our J Drive shares are a point of confidentiality because only certain people have rights to shares they should have access to. Integrity, what that means is your data isn't being changed by people who shouldn't be changing it. This does kind of cross over with confidentiality a bit, but it's ensuring that when you send an email to, let's say, Ed Archer, it's getting there and it's not being edited along the way. It's not having other information or files put into it. Availability, this one a lot of people don't consider as security. This is just your files, your information, your data. It's available when you want it to be available. Because in the event of a bad security outbreak, things will not be available. I mean, we've seen this with other companies in Sudbury who have had security breaches, and public services have become unavailable because of it. Privacy, this is similar to confidentiality, but privacy is just specifically that you're looking at your data. There's no one else on your PC while it's there. There's no one intercepting your emails along the way to look at it. And so these four elements really kind of make up what security is and what the goal of having a secure environment is. And then the next question I get a lot is, why do we care? Or even, why should I care? So the reason for that is, especially as a municipality, I'll start with here. We deal with a lot of information that's very confidential. We deal with citizen data. We deal with, you look at somewhere like Pioneer Manor, they deal with patient data. We deal with a lot of things that if they get into the wrong hands, it, one, reflects poorly on us, and it, two, can really make life hard for the person whose data is leaked. And then one thing I think people don't realize is a lot of things we do for security, they help you at home too. I've talked to a lot of people I'm sure at least one person in this room has probably had their credit card compromised, and you get a call from your bank and we're gonna send you a new credit card because your credit card's compromised. So a lot of things we talk about here are with a goal of protecting you both at work and at home. So I'm just going to show a couple statistics about security to really put in perspective how big this is, especially kind of the last 3 or 4 years has really started to boom up. In the first half of 2028 alone, 4.5 different records were kind of maliciously accessed or compromised. That's 25 million every day, or really it's, 70,000 since we started this talk. It's just mind-boggling in North America alone how much data is being accessed by people who shouldn't have it or with malicious or bad intentions. And then the next question I always get is like, well, how does this happen? Like, how are they getting to this data? So these break this down pretty well into the types of breaches. And when I say a breach, that is someone accessing data or editing data who shouldn't be. So 65% of the breaches in this report came from identity theft. That's the biggest one. And I mean, we hear about it in the news quite often. People get a hold of someone's SIN number, people apply for a loan under a different name. Like, this all kind of mashes together into this identity theft category. Account access, that's someone got someone's password and they logged in on behalf of them. It's another huge thing, and that's kind of the one we're trying to protect us with the phishing trials we do. There's also financial access. This is things like you often hear about the phone call scams that are going around, where if they call you and you have an inheritance or something like that, and they're trying to give you get access to your bank account. That's where those come in. Nuisance, this is just people playing on the internet looking to kind of cause a scene. And then my favorite one, just because to me it's the funniest one, is existential data. What this is, it's data people don't even realize is out there. So for example, if we uploaded documents to the Greater Sudbury website, and we didn't realize in that document there was a visa number. That's an example of existential data. It's just things that got out there that no one realized. And then the final kind of stats I want to show you, just because these ones are the ones that I really want to reinforce, is why specifically here at the city we care so much. Because if you look at this graph, 27% of all security breaches occur in government environments. We're obviously one of the more highly targeted ones, given the type of information in government environments. You can see at number one, social media. That's kind of obvious why. There's so much personal information that can be leveraged to kind of do other things. And if you look at the next few, once again, it's a lot of customer info and personal info. If you get lower on the list, it's technology, industrials, so things like trade secrets. Like, those are things people are trying to access as well. So this gives you a bit of an idea of kind of where this is happening. And now, as far as breach examples, they happen often, like everywhere. I'm going to go through just a couple here. Most of these are fairly local. In 2019, not that long ago, there was the big outbreak at the hospital here in Sudbury, which affected hospitals across the north. This was absolutely massive. Patients had treatments delayed. Like this one really shows the impact that one of these attacks can have on a public enterprise. Hackers says he found dozens of weaknesses in Laurentian security. This happened a couple of years ago. It was just a student. This would fall into the kind of not harmful type, where the student just found vulnerabilities in the Laurentians' network and their websites. Sudbury College in damage mode after data held for ransom. This was Cambrian College. This happened right around the time grades came out. Students couldn't access their grades. A large amount of PCs were encrypted there. And once again, it gets in the news and people start talking about it. And ideally, it's not where a company wants to be, having to explain why you can't do this thing you always assumed you could do. Wasaga Beach pays ransom following computer system hacking. Once again, not that long ago, they had an event at Wasaga Beach where all their data was encrypted. They didn't have a way to get it back. They ended up having to pay a ransom just to get their data back. And it's, once again, I don't think we want to be the IT department going to city council saying, hey, can we have $70,000 to get our own data back? It's not the place we want to be. And finally, once again, this one's fairly recent too. The Canada Post had a big breach where customer name lists got out from all the OCS purchases shortly after their opening. Once again, customer data getting out there. You don't want to have to explain why your address is now out there, your phone number, your purchasing information. Then in terms of how much these cost, just in Canada in 2018, the average security breach caused $6.1 million worth of damage. This is not necessarily just financial damage too, this is time loss. So you can imagine a situation if something happened to the city where all of our computer systems were down for even 24 hours. You can quickly see how 6.1 million, that doesn't take long to happen. If no one can work, like right there, you're looking at significant, though it's not financial damage, time damage, which is costing the city money, costing the taxpayers money. So finally, the next thing I want to talk about, because I think this is a misconception, is what is a hacker? When most people think of hacker, they think of like the movie War Games, or a movie with like some guy in a black hoodie in a Starbucks, crawled over a keyboard, typing things in. That's not really what a hacker is, and we've seen a lot more kind of development of what the word hacker is recently. So a hacker, to me, I really like this definition. It's any skilled computer expert, and really, in my opinion, it's any experts, not necessarily computing. They use their technical knowledge to overcome a problem. This is why more and more you hear terms like life hacker or biohacker. It's just being tagged on to every word as a buzzword. It's just someone going about solving problems in an unconventional way. So there are three main types of hackers, which I'll speak about here. There's black hat hackers. These are the people you think about when you think hacker. The ones in the movie, like I said, in the hoodie. This is the person trying to get credit card data. This is the person trying to cause damage. There's gray hat hacker. This is kind of, they sit in a moral gray zone, I'll say. These are people generally doing things just to see if they can do it. Lots of the people you hear about in the news hacking companies, they weren't even necessarily doing it to make money. Like this is probably more in the 80s, early 90s, but hacking into NASA was almost like a goal of every computer student. And they weren't looking to cause harm. They were just looking to get somewhere they weren't supposed to be. And finally, white hat hackers. This is security professionals. These are the people who, they're trying to fix things, they're trying to prevent things before they happen, and to do that, they essentially think like the person who's going to be attacking. So in our case, we think if someone wanted to get access to data at the city, what would they do? And then we try to do it to see if, one, it can be done, And if it can be done, how can we fix this? Because at the end of the day, we have to think like they're going to think, because they're going to be a step ahead of us otherwise. So one of the things I wanted to do on this before we get too much deeper, like I said, I mentioned earlier about the phishing tests we always run. Just to show you kind of how easy these are and how quickly they start, we're actually going to launch a phishing test against city staff right now, right here. So if anyone in this room falls for it, I'm going to be really disappointed in everyone. But here, I'll just sit down here and we'll go through this real quick. So we use this program to launch these. It's very, very straightforward for us. The scary thing is, what we use here, there is a version of it that is completely free that would be available to anyone looking to use it for nefarious reasons. So we're essentially using the same tools as someone looking to cause harm would use. The difference is, when we run these, often we don't even have a login page, and when we do have a login page, we're not actually capturing what people are entering. We're doing this to educate, and that's one of the things I really want to hammer through, because a lot of people, they've fallen for these and then they feel really bad. We've had people tell us they even feel embarrassed. And what I want to hammer through is that's not the goal of these. The goal of these is to educate people. We want everyone, if you fail one, that's fine. You read your education page, you get a bit better. Fail another one, it's okay. You read the education page, you get better. The reason we keep running these is to keep getting better. And we've seen it over time. The first one of these we ever ran, I'll go through that later, but 30% of the city typed in their username and password. That's the reason we keep doing these, to get that number lower and lower and lower. So this one here comes in, is going to be sent to everyone at the city, and comes in with a wonderful little email here saying, we've recently upgraded the security on our internal city links. Please log in within the next 72 hours to maintain access. 5 random users who log in within the first 24 hours will win Tim's cards. This seems really sneaky, and the reason we do this is because this is the exact same thing people attacking will do. They're trying to pressure you into doing the action. They're even trying to bribe you into doing the action. We're using the same techniques that someone looking to cause bad things uses, essentially.
Scott?
Yep.
How much are Tim's cards worth?
See, that's how you tell this isn't real. We didn't say how much the Tim's cards are worth. So for those of you viewing online, the question was, how much are the Tim's cards worth? It's one of the many things you can tell. We didn't specify a lot of detail. We kind of just ran through it quickly. Though we'll talk about it a bit more later, but things like that just add up real quickly to tell you what's real, what isn't. So I've already inputted a list of all the emails in the city into this. I created the page beforehand, but in reality, this only took me 45 minutes to set up. Like, it's incredible how fast these can be built. And like I said, if it's someone looking to cause harm and launch these against a lot of companies, it's a really scary thing. So we've clicked launch. So over the next hour, these are going to start flowing out. What we're going to do is, at the end of this talk, we're going to come back and we're going to look at how many people have clicked them, just to give you an idea of how fast we start getting clicks on these and why we keep doing these. So we'll go back to the presentation now. And like I said, we'll revisit that at the end. So we'll talk a bit more about phishing now. And phishing comes in a lot of different forms. And for anyone who doesn't know what phishing is, it's trying to look like someone you're not to gain information you're not supposed to get. The most common way is usernames and passwords. Someone makes a fake login page to Facebook. They make you think they're Facebook. And then suddenly they have your Facebook access once you tried to log into this fake page. You often see them come in emails like this. So, hey, look, this email from Microsoft Outlook. My password's expired. Oh, I better fix that real quick. But in reality, when you look at the email, MS Outlook 94 at SRV, like, this is not legitimate. We'll go in a bit more later on how to spot these. But I want to talk more about one of the things that's becoming a lot more common is mobile phishing. So it's people setting up websites trying to look like your social media app, like your Dropbox app. And when you browse them on your phone, you think you're accessing the app. But in reality, once again, it's just a clever page looking to try and steal your credentials from you. So this is a bit of a view from our side of things. These are some of the recent tests we've ran. On March 27th, we ran a test that was fairly obvious. I can't remember exactly which one it was, but it was one of the ones where the domain was like, this seems fishy or something like that. We tried to mix it up and make some that are more clever and some that are more obvious. So you can see on that, only 3% of people clicked the link and only 1% of people submitted their credentials. So we've gotten relatively good at identifying obvious ones. The key too is on these phishing emails, clicking the link can be just as bad as typing in your credentials. If you have an email that seems fishy, pun not intended, just contact IT. We are never going to be angry that you called us and you said, is this legitimate? We are happy to have those conversations. You call the help desk 2525 and we're glad to talk you through that and help you. And then you can see we did one earlier in March that was a bit more clever one. This one came in looking like an e-post email.
Oh, you got me on that one.
We got a lot of people on that one, as you can see. This one was tricky because one, it was an e-post email, which looked just like your regular e-post email essentially, but it was also like right after the T4s went out. This is information, like everyone knows companies are sending out T4s at the end of February. This is information everyone has, so anyone from the outside could have made these same assumptions. Lots of companies in Sudbury, lots of companies in Ontario use e-post. It's all these kind of, you're betting that people are using this, and oftentimes it's very easy to pick kind of what everyone uses and be right. And you can see with this one, 25% of people opened the email and 17% of people clicked the link. It was one of our most clicked campaigns yet, and luckily off of it we got a lot of good information, and we've seen in tests since people have gone even better. Like I said, it's all about repeat, repeat, repeat. You fall for one, it's not the end of the world. We're not trying to embarrass anyone. Like even the list of people who see it really just sticks to Jim. Like these information doesn't even go out within IT. We just see the numbers, and we really want to reinforce we're doing this to try to help people understand, not to embarrass or shame anyone.
Opening the email doesn't do any damage, though. It's
No,
just if you click on the link, you
there
can
is
open it and see what it can
Yeah, so the question was, opening the email, is that safe? And I'd say 99 out of 100 times, clicking an email is safe. The things you have to watch for are links and attachments. Those are kind of the danger areas. And it's always, if you don't recognize something, or if you didn't expect something, always ask people around you or call IT and talk it through with someone. From there, I want to talk a bit about spear phishing. Spear phishing is kind of an extension of phishing. The best comparison is the fishing metaphor. Fishing, we're casting a net into the sea. We're seeing who we get. It's just everyone's in. Spear phishing is more carefully crafted and targeted at a specific person or a specific group of people. So we did a test with this one. I really like talking about this test because we tested IT. We ran a phishing test against IT that was crafted and targeted directly against IT. We spent a long time setting this one up because, to be honest, like people in IT sometimes people start to think, oh, we'd never get caught with these. We wanted a little reality check for the department, so to speak. So what we did is we crafted an attack as if we were outside the city. I didn't use any information we had available to us as city employees. I pretended I didn't work here. We scanned through the city website to try to find lists of staff members and job titles. And we found an IT staff member with a job title and their email. So I went, great, I am now this random person outside the city. I have this person's name, their email address, their job title. To protect the innocent, I won't say who it was, but they know. They definitely know, and I'm pretty sure they're watching right now. So we did that, then we went to LinkedIn. So many people have accounts on LinkedIn. Most of the IT department, I'm sure most departments out there, probably a good portion of people in this room have a LinkedIn account. We went to LinkedIn, we got a picture of them from LinkedIn. Then we crafted an email that looked like it came from LinkedIn. It looked like this person who was in our department was sending an email or a message on LinkedIn to their coworkers. And we sent it from a domain that looked just like LinkedIn. Instead of LinkedIn's emails come from linkedinmail.com. We just bought linkedinmail.co. No one really noticed it, obviously. So we bought that, we crafted the email. And then one of the things we did, because generally IT has gone pretty paranoid, mostly because of me and running these. But what I did is I actually launched this while I was on vacation, so no one would suspect me. So we launched it to the IT department, and from the IT department, 65% of people tried to log into the page, which shows when something is crafted and targeted at the person, it's almost unavoidable. The lucky part is We're the city of Sudbury. We're not the city of Toronto. We're not the Canadian government. We're the big little fish in the big pond. When someone's going to target someone directly, it tends to be those bigger, more valuable pieces of information. So we have to focus on those fish that target everyone. We have to avoid the nets in the sea. No one's coming for us with a spear. But it is good to be aware that this does exist. So just keep that in the back of your mind and let that be a lesson that no one is above these. Like I said, IT is not above these. We try to test ourselves just as well, if not better, than we do the entire city. I'm going to talk a bit about passwords. And I got this quote about passwords, and I really like it. Passwords are like underwear. You don't let people see it. You should change it pretty often, and you really shouldn't share it with strangers. And to me, this just resonates so well because people understand this. Lots of people say, well, it's just a password. What does it do? But think of all the things you have access to at your desk. You're giving another person access to all those things. And not just that, you're giving them access as you. So for whatever reason, they go in and they do bad things, it's going to look like you did them. So it's very important that you keep your password to yourself. Don't even give your password to people in the IT department. No one in IT should ever be getting your password. We should be working with you, not taking over your account to do things. Well, I'll talk a bit about what hackers target. It's kind of split between 3 categories, but there's a lot of overlap. They target physical things, so locks, windows, physical unshredded documents, buildings, vehicles. There's the technical layer, which is computers, networks, encryption, passwords, internet-connected devices. And then there's the human layer, which is social engineering. Social engineering is essentially using your words to get access to something you shouldn't, or using even human psychology. Phishing is kind of a blend of the technical and the human. Lots of these kind of things that attack technical areas kind of sit between multiple layers. Because when you think about it, who's watching over the physical layer here at the city? Not IT, it's the security department. So if you're attacking something between the security department and the digital, who's watching that? Is it IT? Is it security? Is it no one? That's why those are the areas that we as people here at the city, we have to be very careful with. So now a bit more into physical security. One thing I think not a lot of people realize, your badge swipe, great, I don't know where mine is, but your badge swipe, that should be treated just like a password. You should not be handing that out to people. You should not be, someone forgets their badge, like you should be trying to help them, but not giving them your badge for the day. Lock your PCs when you step away. Pretty simple. Your PC's unlocked, someone walks by, especially those of you who work in more public areas, any person can walk up, start typing on that keyboard. We have an unwritten rule in IT. If you don't lock your PC, bad things happen to your PC. Your background typically get changed to David Hasselhoff, but it can be a lot of other things too. USB phones and drives should both be treated with a lot of precaution. As much as possible, we discourage people from using USB drives. We discourage people from using your phone as a storage device on your work PC. Because while the perimeter, we have good firewalls, we have our web proxy, we have so many things blocking stuff from the outside to come in. But when you're plugging in, it's going around all of that. So it becomes a lot harder for us to kind of rein in. There's great alternatives to that. I think right now in the other room, there's a session going on about FileAway. It's a great alternative to using USB drives. If you haven't heard of it, the videos will be up on this online later. Be sure to check them out and learn a bit. Tailgating, I love talking about this one too because everyone wants to be nice, right? Or at least I hope everyone wants to be nice. When I walk in the morning and there's someone behind me, I'm holding the door open. I really shouldn't. This is one of the kind of most common ways people get into areas they're not allowed. Even saying, there was a good story in the States. There's a bank, the person was going in the back employee door entrance. And there was a person who came up, they were in a wheelchair, they had a box of donuts on their lap. Person held the door open. Well, of course you're gonna hold the door open for a person in a wheelchair with donuts. You wanna be nice, you want donuts. But the reality is, this is a place we really have to watch because it's, like I said, it takes advantage of people wanting to be nice. I know a lot of companies, what they do, when you come in the door, even if there's someone behind you, you hold the door open, but you make sure they swipe their badge too. I mean, this is a huge kind of mountain to overcome because, like I said, we just want to be nice, but it's one I want people to at least keep in mind. And finally, physical documents, dumpster diving. Dumpster diving is when someone goes into your dumpsters after work, tries to find documents there they can use. When you have a recycling bin in your office that says to be shredded on it, and it's just an open recycling bin, it might as well say steal me, please, because it has a lot. That means it's going to have information that you don't want getting out there. So it's just another thing to come in mind. This is why a lot of departments have locked blue boxes and other options. Yep.
How do you lock your PC?
So the question is, how do you lock your PC? There's multiple different ways, but the easiest one, hold down the Windows key and the L key. That'll lock your PC right then and there. You can walk away right after. You can also go into the start bar. If you're on Windows 10, you click your little portrait and click lock PC, but hitting it on your keyboard is just so much easier. Windows key L. Eventually you get into the habit and you'll be getting out of your chair and hitting Windows key L as you do it. I won't go too long on passwords because you heard a lot about it this morning. But one of the goals I want to talk about passwords, we want to make something that is easy for us to remember, but it has to be long, because at the end of the day, if I have this short password, like in the top panel here, Troubadour with a 0 instead of an O, a 4 instead of an A, an ampersand, or an N and a 3 at the end, this is really short. It's really hard for me to remember, and it turns out computers are really good at random. Computers can do random stuff that's short way quicker than a human mind can. We're saying on the bottom, like correct horse battery staple, 4 random words. Computers aren't good at guessing long things. So at the end of the day, having a long password is a lot more important than having a complex password. Once again, I'll go over this real quickly. There is a lovely website called Have I Been Owned? I would strongly suggest everyone go to this website in your downtime. It's Have I Been Owned, spelled pwned.com. You can throw it in Google, Have I Been Pwned? It'll come up. What you do, you can go to this website, you can put in your email, your home email, your city email, and it's going to show you how many security breaches your email has been a part of. Because lots of these breaches, the databases become publicly available. So it's going to show you how many times your email shows up in this. So in this case, I grabbed a random city employee, put their email in here, and you can see their account was actually on 4 different websites that got hacked. And then it gives you a list of those websites, and it tells you what data was it compromised. So I'm not going to go through this whole thing, but just the interesting thing to me is on LinkedIn, the compromised password includes email addresses and passwords. This kind of goes to reinforce one of the things we always say, which is every website you use, you should try to have a different password. Like that when LinkedIn gets hacked and your password's just out there for anyone to see, it only affects that account. It's not your city account, it's not your CRA account, it's not every account that's compromised. So we're going to dive a bit more into the social engineering part of things here. To me, this is the part that 1, is really cool to see, and 2, is terrifying and prevents me from sleeping at night. Because we're going to watch a video here. This is something that is incredibly common, and it's one of those things where halfway through the video, everyone's mouth is going to be open and going, no, this doesn't happen. But we'll play it here, and trust me, this does happen, and yes, it is terrifying.
Invited Chris to hack me with his team, but they're going to hack me using social engineering, which is essentially hacking without any code. They just use a phone and an internet connection.
We help people with human security issues by testing vulnerabilities for like a network test, but it's for the people network. We test those vulnerabilities, see where the holes are, and then help people learn so they can patch them.
Can we try some of this? Can we try some?
Yeah.
See if it works?
Yeah, we probably could have our star visher here make some phone calls as
Let's do it.
Sure. Do you want to do a sample phishing call?
What's phishing?
Phishing is voice elicitation, and basically what you do is you use the phone to extract information or data points that can be used in a later attack.
Let's do it. Who are you going to call?
Maybe I'll call your cell phone provider
Okay.
and see if I can get them to give me your email address.
I bet they're good. I bet they have my back. But yeah, go for it.
I'm going to spoof from your number, so it's going to look like it's calling from you.
Okay.
Hi, I'm so sorry. Can you hear me okay? My baby, I'm sorry. My husband's like, we're about to apply for a loan and we just had a baby and he's like, get this done by today. So I'm so sorry. I can't call you back. I'm trying to log into our account for uses information, and I can't remember what email address we used to log the account. The baby's crying, and can you help me? Awesome.
In just 30 seconds,
gmail.com?
Jessica gets my personal email address.
Now, if I needed to add our older daughter on our account so she could call in and make changes, how would I need to go about doing that? You would have to send me a secure PIN through a text message? Yeah, well, the thing is, I don't think I'll be able to receive a text message if I'm on the phone. Shh, shh, shh. Oh, I'm not on there either? So I thought when we got married, he added me to the account. Okay, my
Jessica
name
uses my girlfriend's name and a fake social security number
is 5127.
to set up her own personal access to my account.
Wait, I'm sorry, so there's no password on my account right now? Can I set that up?
She even gets the support person to change my
Thank you
password.
so much for your help today.
So she just basically blocked me out of my own account.
I'll get her fed after this. All right, thank you.
Holy shit. So they just gave you access to my entire cell phone account.
You're gonna have to go on and change your password now because it's Jess, my name.
And all it took was a crying baby and a phone call.
Yes.
I really thought that my cell phone company would protect me. I mean, like,
Hopefully that gives you a good idea of just how far someone can get with words alone. I mean, it started as just the email address, and I mean, what's an email address? It's not that big of a deal. But then the person built trust with the person over the course of the phone and just asked for more and more and more until they basically owned the account. Like I said, in this case, it's a cell phone account, but I mean, you can quickly understand how a similar line of acting could get someone to call into the city and get access to a building plan they're not supposed to have. Or once again, it's preying on our instinct to want to be nice. This poor mother is on the phone with her crying baby and just trying to get something done, and I just want to help her, and it's really scary, and it comes back to a point I'm going to bring on later, which is we have to be a bit paranoid at times. Like, I don't want to say trust no one, but at least ask the question. So like I said, be a little paranoid. When you're talking to someone, do I know this person? Confirm their identity. I'm sure a lot of you have possibly called into the help desk and service desk and wanted a password reset. And often if we don't know you directly, we end up making you jump through a lot of hoops to prove you are who you are. We want to speak to a coworker of yours, or we want to speak to your manager. We want to confirm you are who you say you are. We don't want to be resetting Dan Tebow's password and the guy's calling in from a phone at the library. It's a really scary thought. Same thing, when these types of scenarios come up, you want to be aware of a sense of urgency from the person. If they're really trying to pressure you to do something real quick, it should throw up a red flag right away. Like you saw that in the email we just sent out. We said, oh, log in the next 72 hours to keep your account. It'd be a shame if something happened to your account. Just trying to kind of push the person down the path. So when someone, and it can come in different forms, it could be someone being outraged about something, and oh, I need this fixed, this is outrageous. It's just, you gotta question it a bit, and while we do want to be a nice person, we also don't want to get burned by something like this. And the other one is don't provide sensitive information. I get a lot of questions, what's sensitive information? Well, it's almost everything. Because when you think about it, if someone calls in to IT and says, okay, can I speak, what's your manager's name? I say, oh, and I don't know the person, they don't even work at the city, it's some random citizen. I say, Jim Dolson. I say, oh, okay, thanks. They hang up, they call back. They call another department and says, oh, hey, this is Jim Dolson. And that person maybe doesn't know Jim Dolson, but they know their name and they know their manager of IT. Suddenly that person is Jim Dolson in that person's eyes. That information didn't look like anything special initially, but you can see kind of it builds and it builds and it builds, which is why you really need to make sure you know who you're talking to. You need to make sure kind of this is safe, right? If something smells bad, it's usually bad. I mean, once again, IT is always happy to talk to you, work through things like this. I mean, when you're concerned about random person shows up in your area and they're walking around and you don't know why they're there, probably wouldn't hurt to give security a call or at least talk to the person, say, hey, who are you? Don't just assume because they're there and you've never seen them before that they belong. Like that's a big one too. Especially, once again, especially for people who work in public areas. So we're gonna do a little test now. Luckily you're not actually being graded. But what we have here is I'm going to pull up a few emails, and we're going to get some volunteers to try and guess if this is a legitimate email or not. So in this case, the emails are going to be coming to myself. That's not my email, that's my name. So I'll make this text a bit bigger too. So in this case, this is an email from a wonderful friend, Luke Johnson. Who would like to take this first one? Do I have a volunteer who would like to try and guess if this is a legitimate email? Clarissa, I see your hand up. You get to be the first volunteer. So in this case, you can see who the email's from, who it's to, and the email. What do you think when you look at this? Is there anything you would do to this email?
I would scroll over any links just to see what they are.
That is a great first thing. I'm telling you, so for those of you on the live stream, Clarissa said she'd scroll over any links, highlight them to see where they went. This is a great first step to do. If you do this one step alone, you're not going to get hit by 95% of these. You're not going to get hit by probably near 100% of the ones that we do. So when you highlight the link, this is the link you see. What's your opinion on this link, Clarissa?
If I wasn't familiar with Google Drive, then what I would do is I would go to Google, type in Google Drive, and pull it up.
So she said if she wasn't familiar with Google Drive, she'd go to Google, go to the Google Drive website, and pull it up. This is another great one. This specifically with our ePost email would have solved things. What happens is you look at the email, you say, oh, that email's from ePost. Rather than clicking the link, you go to ePost's website. Clicking links, if it can be avoided, just avoid it altogether. If it's an email from Dropbox, just go to Dropbox's website. Skip the email. You see it says, oh, you got to go do this on the website. Go do that on the website. Don't click the email. Those are two kind of great ones, and very obviously, this is definitely a phishing email. And it is indeed, you can tell, you hover over the links, like I said, that drive -- Google. Had you just gone to Google Drive itself, you would have noticed, hey, these aren't relevant to anything. So you've received 8 email facts. Can I get another volunteer for this one? Come on,
No, I'm the worst offender.
don't be shy. Don't be shy. Come on. So here's the top of the email. So if there's anything that looks suspicious or anything you would do with this email.
Well, I guess I'd want to know where, just because I don't know.
Yep.
I'd check out what the eFax domain.
Yep.
Just to make sure it was legit, if I could.
Okay, so you check out the eFax domain to make sure it was legit.
Now I will.
Okay.
Yeah. Your email looks good to me. What else?
So think about what Clarissa did.
She went to the, she ran the mouse over top of the link.
Exactly.
All
So
right.
we run the mouse over the link. This link definitely does not look legitimate. You can see like mailru382.co. Rule of thumb, the longer and more ridiculous the domain looks, chances are it's fake. One of the other things here, and this one's a bit tricky, is if you notice, in the domain in the email, it's eFax, F-A-C-K-S. And when you look in, I guess I hadn't scrolled down far enough, that's my bad. But you look at the logo down here, it's E-F-A-X. So once again, you see stuff that's not consistent, that's not adding up. Red flag should be going up, bell should be going off. So I think you'd agree with me, obviously phishing at this point.
Well, right, I'm so gun shy that I practically don't open anything.
I mean,
If I don't know 100% you sent it, did you send me something? Okay.
but that
My idea of checking.
but that is valid. Calling us if you have any concern whatsoever. Like I said, I go back to, we will never be angry if someone calls you. That keeps us employed. We want to be employed.
Locked out. You guys locked me out. I felt really bad about that.
So yeah, once again, the eFax, like you mentioned, as well as the mail address, the mailru382. Obviously phishing. We'll do one more of these. Nance, how are we doing on time?
40 minutes.
40 minutes? We'll do one more of these. Maybe 2. So can I get another volunteer? Don't be shy. Clarissa again. So this one is super common. If anyone has like a Hotmail address or a Gmail address, these are going to be living in your spam folder all the time. So once again, what are we looking at here, Clarissa?
Honestly, I never trust anybody's email address if it has that many numbers in the.
That-
I never trust it, never open it.
Yeah, seeing an email address with that many numbers, and like I said, especially if you don't recognize the person, like why is this person I don't know sending me this?
I would, again, scroll over the link to see what it is.
Bingo. Scroll over the link, see what it is.
It looks somewhat legitimate, but at the same time, there's no human aspect to this. It's just like, hey, here's a link. There's
Yeah.
no, hey, do you remember me? We're from high school.
Yeah.
There's no human contact.
There's no.
there.
It doesn't sound
Openly.
It doesn't sound human, right? No one would send you an email like this.
Yeah.
So the other thing too is, once again, like you mentioned last time, you see, oh, this is on Google Drive apparently. So you go to your Google Drive manually, you check it out there rather than clicking the link. We've tried even here at the city on internal email, we're trying to reduce how many links we send out. I'm sure if any of you saw the email for the employee modernization survey that Jim sent out, it said, hey, go click the link on City Links, because we're trying to reduce that. Just links are not great. That's pretty much all there is to it. Once again, obviously a phishing email. You see the URL, once again, kind of fishy, and the general tone of the email wasn't great either. So we'll cut those there and we'll go back to the presentation itself. But if you ever are interested at looking or trying this yourself, it's at phishingquiz.withgoogle.com. You can also just go to Google, search Google Phishing Quiz. It's made by Google. They get you to type in your email and your name so that it looks like the emails are actually coming to you. But it's a great little test to run through. Despite the first three all being phishing emails, it actually does show you some legitimate emails. And this is another one of those ones that's great because it doesn't just help you here, it helps you at home as well. Like this, everything I'm talking about, yes, we're talking about within the context of the city, but this all applies at home as well. I'll stand up for 3 seconds, I guess. This one, we're going to go watch another video here. This one I think is super interesting. It is a fictional video, but it is based on real events. And what this is someone taking all those different social engineering techniques we talked about and linking them together. So getting information that doesn't seem that important, spoofing your someone else, a phishing email, attachments on an email. And this is in the context of a private company, but once again, it shows how quickly this stuff can really escalate and cause real damage. Remember now, this one's way quieter.
How did you decide to become a hacker?
Well, I'm not really sure what it means to become a hacker. That's like some guy in a hoodie who types really fast and stays up all night writing code and cracking passwords. It's not me. I just spy on people and see what makes them click. It's not a bad job.
Mark Hanning, CEO of Qualicart, set to report earnings after their blockbuster IPO.
So you consider this a job?
I put a lot of work into this. I'm not lazy. It takes research to figure out the key players, learn all about them, their families, their friends, what they care about. You have to understand the company's organization. I get a lot of my information from the sales department because they're always so quick and eager. They're hungry. People trust too easily. They don't look at the details. I do. Details matter. That's what I'm good at. It has to look completely believable. It has to look familiar. This is where research is important. It's not some generic piece of spam. It's an email from their boss with their company's signature. It's written in the voice of the boss. It's what he would say if he were writing this.
What about the malware itself? How does that work?
Somebody else out there already wrote all the code that does the actual attack. I'm just using it in the attachment. My skill is in my ability to get a bunch of people to click on on that attachment. I always wonder what it's like when the whole thing unfolds on their end, when the panic sets in.
Please leave your message after the beep.
Hey, this is Rajiv in finance. Call me as soon as you get this. Something's up with my laptop. I can't.
Katie, are you on your way into the office? Something's going on with our file servers.
It's Karen in HR. Our benefits dashboard seems really slow. We're getting calls from users on it. Give me a call when you get this. Joining conference now.
Apparently, there's a malware attack targeting our main...
It's ransomware. They're holding us hostage. We're locked out of everything. I can't even check my phone. What about the backup?
That will take days.
We need this fixed now. You pay it. We don't have a choice. We're reporting earnings in 2 hours.
But how do we know
Just
that they'll...
pay it. Put every single person on getting us back up and running. That's the only priority now. Okay, it's done. I have the decrypt key. Mark, we have a big problem. The ransomware was just to distract us. They got inside. They got everything. Customer data, financials, everything.
Qualicards is reeling today from the news that hackers have released the personal information of nearly
The
2
Nasdaq
million
closed
customers.
lower today, led by Qualicart, which was down 14% on news that their recent data breach may be far worse than the company
Its stock
originally
fell
acknowledged.
to a new all-time low on news that CEO Mark Hanning is stepping down after what is turning out to be one of the worst breaches of personal information in recent history.
Do you feel bad about releasing the personal information? All the financials? All the money that was lost?
All I did was get the files. I'm not the one that decided to release them. I'm not the one that shorted the stock. Somebody else had their reasons for that. It's above my pay grade. I was paid to do a job, and I did it well. And that's what's expected of anyone, isn't it? Anyway, markets bounce back.
So once again, it really shows you how a bunch of those things link together. Like the email from the CEO, which, okay, they sent an attachment. They encrypted the files, they paid the ransom, then the information was leaked out. So this is actually based, I think it was about 3 or 4 years ago at this point, this was based against the big security attack against Sony. It was all over the news for a bit. They had full movies leak out. I mean, they lost an incomprehensible amount of money. And it really shows that just by trusting this one email, it kind of was the slinky going down the stairs. It just didn't stop until it was in almost irrecoverable position. I guess it helps if I start the presentation again. So I guess if I could summarize everything I've said with one sentence, when in doubt, call the service desk. I don't know how many times I can hammer it in. We're never going to be angry or frustrated that you're calling us and, oh, this is a good email, it's from Jim. No, we'd rather be safe in all cases. So once again, call the service desk 2525. We're always happy to talk. So I'll take some questions, but before I do that, I will say after we do the questions, there's one final video. It's a bit of a longer one, about 15 minutes. I'd strongly recommend, if you do have time, stick around and watch it, because what it really does, it shows from behind the scenes a company who was hired to get into an electrical grid. And it shows what they went through, what they saw, and it's at a very kind of understandable level that this is so simple it could happen anywhere. And an electrical grid isn't that far off from a water plant, right? Like these are places you don't want someone being without access. So after this, we'll go into that, but just to start, is there any questions? Anyone? I didn't do that good of a job. Come on. So as long as you're sure the person you're sending to is the person you want to send to. Sorry, the question was, is there any risk in sending emails to people outside of the city? I'd say in that case, as long as you're sure the person you're sending to is indeed that person, like if you get an email, say Dario Zulich, make sure it's actually Dario Zulich you're emailing back and not just some guy who created dario.zulich@gmail.com.
And isn't that always a fear anyway? Like, I mean, you kind of look to see if their name's in the email, if, they've asked you certain information that they might be able to know. But I find there's always a risk, and I don't like that risk.
There is definitely always a risk. The biggest part, at least for me, how I deal with that, is if it's people I've had prior conversations with, I go back and look at a past email and make sure it's still coming from that address. If it is something where you're discussing like a very sensitive topic, you can even go as far as saying, hey, just call me. And then like at least if you know the person, you know the voice, it's a bit better. There's no perfect solution. That's the honest truth. It's always be careful. Make sure you're doing what you know you want to do. Make sure you're talking to the person you think you're talking to. At the end of the day, you can take every precaution in the world. Something could still go wrong. We just try to do the best we can. Hopefully that answers that a bit.
One question.
Yep.
So here's my situation is I'm super cautious about everything. I don't want to click anything.
Yep.
So somebody got hold of my name
Mhm.
and they sent my brother an email with my beth.audio, but not at
Yeah.
gmail.com. It was at something else,
Yep.
and it had one of those crazy look at this
Yeah.
photo. My brother texted me, "What the hell are you sending me?" And I said, "I didn't send you anything." So that happened for like weeks.
Yep.
I don't even know where that came from. And then I got that friggin' spoofing thing
Mhm.
where they were using my phone number
Yep.
and calling people trying to sell them stuff. Well, the one guy called me back, just flipping out, taking me to the police, and I'm like, "I'm not calling you, dude.
Yeah.
It's not me." Like, where did this all come from? Like, I don't click on anything, so I don't know where they picked
Yeah.
all this stuff up from.
Okay, how am I going to sum up that question? I guess in essence, the question is, if someone is using your information, how do you figure out where they got it from?
Yeah.
Or how do you fix that? The sad reality is, it's almost impossible. Usually, it can start as something as simple as city's like if it's routing from the city's website. If it's not routing from the city, just somewhere you signed up for an account and they got hit with something security related. Like that, have I been owned? That'll give you a good idea because it might say, hey, your email was in all these databases and this is the information, and they could have started there. At the end of the day, it's really hard to protect everything. I mean, I myself had my SIN number compromised, and I searched high and low trying to figure out what it was, and eventually I figured out that a company I had gotten financial aid from, their database got breached and it leaked, and I assume it leaked there, but there's not really anything you can do. So like it just goes back to what I said, hammer, 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 you keep going, you try to do your best, but at the end of the day, another company can screw up, or, which doesn't apply to any of us, but if someone wants to get someone's information bad enough, they will. That's just the sad reality of it, is criminals and people with nefarious actions are a step ahead of the good guys, so to speak.
I guess the spoofing, though, I mean, you could just type in a random,
Yeah.
keep going 111, 1112, 1113, and just keep rolling through them.
Yeah, this spoofing in itself is a very automated process for the most part, especially when it comes to like the sales calls, the call centers. They usually have automated technology that's doing things like that.
Pain in the butt.
It's huge, yeah,
Like
definitely.
This guy lost his head, and they kept calling him.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
I mean,
I'm not calling you.
that's the frustrating part. Is often you can do everything right, and you're the one holding the short end of the stick at the end of the
I
day.
informed him about this spoofing thing. I said, call Bell. They'll tell
Yeah.
you.
Yep.
Oh, he was calling the cops on me. I'm like, do it.
Well, that is a valid point. And even the police, there's generally not much they can do. Like when I had my SIN stolen, the person opened a bank account in my name. I brought that to the police, and the first thing they said is, we're going to be completely honest. We're never going to figure this out. We'll take down your information in case a bigger bust ever happens, but any one individual person, you're out of luck. Like, you're not going to lose anything. The bank's always going to fix everything for you, but it's generally a lot of paperwork and a lot of work.
So they just keep rolling.
Yep. Yep. Any other questions? Okay. Well, we'll move forward to, like I said, the last video. Like I said, if you don't have time to stick around, that's fine. I think personally, this is like the coolest video because it really does show how these things all intertwine and how a lot of things you wouldn't even think of are big issues. What?
Who signed up?
Oh, yeah, we'll do that after this video. We'll give it a bit more time. Good call. Thanks, Claude. I know that's what everyone wants to see.
flipped the lights on. The door was just open.
Basically anything that could.
Penetration testing company. They're hired to prove to show companies where is your security not good enough. Show us where our weak links are so we can fix them before someone takes advantage of them.
Ruin a company we try to access.
So we're about to hit up a power substation. It's surrounded by a barbed wire fence.
We will get in, there's no doubt about it.
I'm in the building.
Server room.
We're not seeing cameras. I think the surveillance sign is a lie.
It's kind of creepy, yeah.
We are the attacker team. We are offensive security. Our goal is to achieve full access. I'm extremely optimistic.
This guy, holy buckets.
The wonderful thing about all of this is it's perfectly legal. We like to bring in a mix of people with different technical skills.
We're going to pretend like we work here. My specialties, if you will, really involves social engineering.
Now what I'm doing is I'm going to download some malicious scripts. Background mainly in application pen testing.
Given a determined enough attacker, it doesn't stand a chance. I come from the military, specifically the Army, as a paratrooper and a medic.
I originally practiced doing this stuff at home. Penetration tester, usually focus more on the network side of things.
You need to have the ability to kind of think outside the box, then you can start to hack stuff. So we're currently on our way to the first office location where we'll be basically conducting reconnaissance just to see what the area looks like, where we're going to gain access, what things we need to be aware of. We're sort of close. There's the offices. Anytime you're going to break into a building, you have to be aware of people. You have to be aware of the security controls that they have in place. A reconnaissance is going to help us figure some of that out. The target will be on the left. And this is the employee parking. Looks like there is not a fence along the wooded area. Drive casual. The goal is going to be look at different approaches. Over here is all a neighborhood, and this is wooded, but there's no fence here. Look for cameras, try to get a sense of when people are going to be there.
Office, a bunch of cameras out on this side.
What the surrounding area looks like. Are there neighbors who are going to see what we're doing who might call the authorities? We've got residents, so if anybody sees us, we've got a problem. It looks fairly accessible. It'd be fairly simple to have somebody enter from the wooded area or simply just drive up into the employee parking lot like you belong and just walk up to the door. Assuming there's not anybody inside, we should have free reign of the place.
Social engineering is also referred to as people hacking.
People are the #1 weakness from a security perspective in any organization. Our costume is basically a technician. So you've got a polo, jeans, work boots. In order to capture some of this, we've also basically used a GoPro inside of a small satchel bag. It's a bag camera.
Right now, him and Paul are in the lobby, talking to the receptionist. They dropped 2 of our contact names.
Talk to over here to check on some speed issues and some other stuff with the internet.
Looks like they're getting visitor badges.
It's not that unexpected that your internet service provider might show up to test if you're having speed issues with your network.
Do we want to get the visitor badges? I know we got it.
Doing a lot of sighing, which is typical of what we should be doing, kind of creating a sense of inconvenience, hoping to play on her, willingness to want to help people. Confidence is extremely important. And that will come naturally, having done your homework in terms of researching a company and solidifying a pretext.
What if I just go with them? Have you even tried to call Mom? I mean, I don't know when you can call.
It sounds like the receptionist is a little open, but this guy's very skeptical at this point.
We look like we're about to go raid some shit. The thing about this, besides the fact that it is by far the most fun, is you got to think on your feet.
We are going to try to get past physical security controls. Of course, we're an ethical hacking company, so what that means is we're not going to break stuff.
Okay, so you guys are going to go in first. I think we should wait for you in the garage so that when you get to that back door, we can just let you in.
We went in 2 teams. One team went in through a wooded area where it wasn't fenced in, approached the back door. The other team simply parked in the employee lot and walked to the employee entrance as though that's where we're employees. We're supposed to be there. Some doors you can use what's called a shove-it tool. It's basically a way just to get in there and get the door to open.
Make a dash for that dumpster. Ready?
We have a tool that we can use to go underneath the door to snake up to grab a handle and simply pull down on the handle from the inside and open the door. Sometimes the doors aren't locked. I mean, first thing is just check if it's open.
Okay, door's open.
We've already found 3 iPads and a laptop, so we're doing pretty good so far. Credit cards be mine, including PIN numbers.
It's designed to be physically deployed at our target location, that we want to maintain a ongoing or rather persistent connection.
It's a small computer that's just a hardware botnet computer. So what we can do is plug that into an outlet and then into the network as well.
Remotely we can control that, install software like malware scripts, penetration testing scripts, things like that.
We had free reign of the office space for as long as we wanted, hacked a few computers, had some pretty good success there. In fact, since achieved domain admin credentials in their network just from that visit alone.
We got everybody? Everybody has their equipment?
Yeah. Cell phone's in the truck.
Coast is clear still?
Walk, don't run. Just walk normal. Walk calm down, dude.
There's microwaves that go out from a sensor, anything that's in front of it, it's going to bounce off. That sensor is going to have a resistance and read it back saying, okay, I know something's here.
A1 flight right there. Looks like they're on their way back. This was way better than a long ass walk through the cold woods. Given the sensor is so close to the ground, we could just toss Steve over the fence and then block the sensor. Once the sensor's blocked, we wait a minute to make sure that the camera hasn't gone off, and then we're in.
We actually don't know about the sensor itself, but the camera has 280-degree view, which basically means that it can't see behind the pole that it's mounted on.
We need to get the shield out.
No, you look cool, buddy. It sucks out here.
Alright. What this is going to do is this is going to block the infrared component of the sensor. You should effectively see my body heat disappear. And we're going to send Steve over the fence again.
So we're gonna stay as far out as possible that we feel safe and just arc around it.
So pretty much looking at a straight on shot to the corner.
It's either gonna work and we're gonna be brilliant for it, or it's gonna fail miserably.
So we're wearing the smog type thing to protect from any arcs that would happen.
You wear cotton clothing so that in the event that you get hit with an arc, your clothing burns instead of melting to your skin.
Everything is completely self-sufficient in here so long as it stays plugged in. The next thing we're gonna do is make sure that we can hit the internal network.
We're not going to cut a lock. We might try to pick a lock, but I'm not going to just smash the thing with a hammer. It's an art.
When you can't break it, just dismantle it.
We're in.
It's effectively a cloner. We'll be able to capture employees' cards and write them to our own cards to get unfettered access into the building, usually at night.
What are we in there?
It's the fake badges that we created work great. Yeah, actually, I'm just looking for the bathroom.
And how'd you get in?
Just through the front right here.
Do you have a pass?
No, I don't.
Well, then let's get your pass.
This isn't a normal USB drive. We've just written some basic code. When we plug it into somebody's system, it's gonna automatically run.
I can basically do anything that he can do on his machine just remotely.
We found some unlocked systems, actually dropped some malicious files on them. I can start the microphone on your computer. So I can now start listening to you physically talking. I can take a screen capture of what's on your desktop. I can take pictures with your webcam to see if you're sitting at your computer or not.
No, he pretty much got in his truck, showed up and cornered us.
Completely honest, my nerves are a little bit shot with this guy.
These companies understand that they need to have a stronger security posture. It's increasing awareness and companies are starting to do much better. We still have a long ways to go, but I think we're seeing improvements out there. Yeah.
You think you have all those little holes patched and then you find out that they found another way to get in.
Door was open.
It is a good experience, and it is a learning experience. It feels like sometimes you take 2 steps forward, but yet, you know, then you're taking 2 or 3 steps backward.
For buildings like this? Really?
Right now, in a lot of ways, the internet is kind of like the wild, wild west. Maybe people aren't necessarily dying, but there's a lot of people hacking, and it doesn't take much to do so.
So hopefully you all enjoyed that. Like I said, it gives you a bit of a perspective of how door being open leads to so much more, and kind of why we try to reinforce and protect the things we do, so that if something did ever happen, we'd at least kind of minimize what was actually affected. So thanks everyone for joining us. Thanks everyone for joining us. Be sure to go to CityLinks and fill out the survey to tell us how you enjoyed today's sessions. Also, on your way out, at the door there's a couple posters. I'd love it if people could grab a poster or 2 on the way out, put them up around your work area. Just kind of help us get the security message out there. And if you thought this was good, suggest to your coworkers they watch the recordings afterwards as well.
Can we see the numbers?
Oh, thank you. So we'll go back. And now with my luck, this will have never actually started and it'll be 0, but hopefully that's not it. So we can see already 62 people have opened the email, 21 people clicked the link, and 17 of those submitted the form. So you can ignore these names. These are just people who received it. These are not the people that failed it, because I don't want them to come shame me. We won't look at any names. But you can see just in this, it's probably been an hour since we launched it. There have already been 62 people opening it, 21 people clicking the link, 17 people submitting a username and password into the form. So hopefully this helps to explain why we keep doing these. I know a lot of people have gotten good at detecting them, and what we hear from them is, why do you keep doing these? These are just annoying. It's just inconveniencing me. This is why. We keep getting better, but we're still not good enough. We need to keep doing this, keep mixing it up, and keep this fresh in everyone's mind if we hope to protect ourselves from it.
Do you find when you're sending out legitimate things that people are like, no?
Oh, definitely. Since we have started this, so the question was, do you find if people are more cautious of legitimate emails as well? And definitely, even within IT, since we started this, I swear at least once a week, someone in IT comes up to me and says, hey Scott, did you send this? I'm like, no, it's from Jim. But like I said, at the end of the day, we would always rather that people be suspicious than just be clicking on everything that comes into their inbox. Yep, it's real time, so you'll see on some of the more tricky ones we've sent out, this thing just, for the first couple hours, is just ping, 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 ping.
Does it tell them it's a scam?
Yeah, so that tells me it's been a long time since you've failed one. So what happens is if they log into the page, it brings them to an educational page that explains to them, here are methods you could have used to tell that this was not legitimate. Yeah, like I said, at the end of the day, this is about education first. That's all we really care about. We're not in this to shame people, to make people feel bad. I mean, if someone does feel bad about clicking about it, I feel bad that we made them feel that way. But at the end of the day, we have to keep doing this. This has been proven to be the best method kind of industry-wide to get people to learn about these.
So if this was a real hack, you'd have to go through the link and the password in order to...
In this one, yes, but there's a lot of them where simply clicking the link has now downloaded something onto your computer. Clicking the link is the first bad. Like, typing in your username and password is really bad. Clicking the link is also bad. Opening the email, though, like the 65 people who've opened the email, I honestly don't care who they are, because you opened the email, big deal. It's if you click the link, or in the event there was an attachment, if you opened the attachment. I mean, those are what we're worried about.
Is there a way to check your home computer, see if something was?
I mean, checking your computer to see if there is something on it is extremely difficult. As funny as it is, I think in the current time, it's much less common. the like traditional like spyware that pops up ads or the adware or the viruses, they're not nearly as common as they were. And just like if you have Windows 10, the built-in tools are pretty good at stopping those. Past that, without kind of trained expertise, so to speak, it's really hard. The best you can do is you use your Windows antivirus, schedule it to run a scan once a month or something like that. And like that's a very good first, if you're doing that and you're being careful about emails, that's kind of your first step. Because at this point, people, like criminals don't really care about the computers as much anymore. They care about the information, they care about the accounts. So they're more going to be targeting people than computers at this point.
So you figure then that with Windows 10, that is pretty well ample security without buying like a Norton antivirus or one of those other.
Yeah. So the question is, with Windows 10, is the built-in stuff good enough, so to speak? And I think basically since Windows 7, the built-in stuff has been pretty good. Like I said, at the end of the day, there's stuff it won't protect you from. There's stuff that nothing's going to protect you from. But to me personally, and once again, this is my opinion, this is just me speaking, purchasing an additional thing for a home PC, it's not worth it. We have McAfee here at the city because on a corporation scale and on the larger scale, it does things that a home one wouldn't do. Because we don't just have to worry about what's happening on your PC, we have to worry about what's happening on the PC next to you talking to your PC as well. That's why we pay for more tools and more options. But for a home PC, the built-in stuff is great.
Do you guys see on your end stuff that's always trying to come in?
Yeah.
Do you see like the scams?
Yeah, so I wish I had those graphs here, but we, so the question is, do we in IT, do we see scams, do we see viruses, do we see malware attacks? And the answer is, yeah, we have some tools for that. Sadly, I don't have them to show here. But just for perspective, I forget what the exact number Jim put out on his most recent one, but we see hundreds of thousands of attacks trying to hit the city a day. It's a day. It's just nonstop. We for a while, we had a screen up in our office that showed them coming in live, and you could not turn your head away, turn back, and still see the same 10 most recent attacks.
And that's all on individual PCs? Or
That's more, so it's not so much on individual PCs, it's coming into our network. So it could be an individual PC, but could also be hitting the city's website, or could be hitting agendas online, or it could be hitting a lot of different things. But it's same thing with spam email. We have a tool that filters email before it gets to you. It tries to take out a lot of spam. I think we're good at the point now, at least I personally, I don't see that much spam come into my inbox. But if, like, just a couple weeks ago, we looked at it, and in one day, my account had, before it got to it, had blocked like 200 or 300 spam emails. Just given that many of us, our emails are out there public on the website, on the internet, it's incredible the amount that comes in, and the tools we have do a pretty good job at slowing that down. See, that's a good point. As we're talking, this number just keeps getting bigger and bigger. In my experience, until about 2 or 3 p.m. this afternoon, this is going to go up at a pretty steady rate. And we've left some running for as long as 3 weeks, and 3 weeks into it, we get another hit. It's, I mean, I guess that person didn't check their email in 3 weeks maybe, but yeah, it goes, and it's incredible to kind of see it. And like I said, if you're just sitting at your desk, you don't see kind of all these wheels turning in the background. You don't see us having this many attacks on us, this many spam emails. Like, that's what we're doing. We're trying to make it so that you have to make the fewest decisions possible in terms of, is this safe? We're trying to filter it out at the top, but at the end of the day, we're like a little kind of filter, right? We're your air conditioning filter. Some stuff's still going to get through.
Now, because the phone systems are hooked up to the computers now too, is that an issue?
So the phone systems are hooked up to the computers now, but it's not really an issue from a security point of view. Those run on their own section of the network, and it's generally much more limited in what they can access. It's kind of like the same thing with the city's website. The city's website, technically it's public, right? Everyone can see it, everyone can get to it, but they can only see the website. They can't see the other components of that server from the outside, and that's kind of how we try to shield ourselves from some of those attacks. Any other questions? Okay, great. And like I said, thanks again for joining us, and be sure to grab a poster on the way out. Thanks. Hey, we're up to 23.